Welcome to episode 206 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I am your host, Dave Dinsberg, and my co-host, Warren Sklar, is here. How you doing, Warren?
I am good. Good to be back. Sorry I missed last week. I was telling Dave that I made it to the beach house almost in time to do the show, but it was a little late, so I didn't want to disturb you. But I did sit here, put my desk together, and watch the three of you last week, and it was cool. You guys did a great job. Thanks for holding the fort down.
Okay.
It wasn't the same without you.
It wasn't the same.
No, you guys actually looked like you had a more coherent conversations without me, so that tells me a lot.
And Jeff Gamet is here. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great. And as always, coherent or not, it's great to be here hanging out with you.
It's great to have you as always. And a return engagement here 2 weeks in a row. Kelly Guimont's back. How you doing, Kelly?
Well, I was okay until I had all this pressure put on me to be coherent. So now I don't know what's going to happen. So
it's only Dave asking that.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's okay.
He's outnumbered.
So we're less than a few days away from WWDC 2022. So we're going to get some of our predictions and all the rumors that have been swirling around. So that'll be most of our discussion. Beta, we got the new beta just came out this week, 15.6, and lots of news stories. So we could talk about as well. So let's go ahead and dive right into the news of this week. First story: global smartphone shipments to decline 3.5% in 2022. But Apple's at least is going to be the least impact. Global smartphone shipments expected to decline 3.5% to 1.31 billion units in 2022, according to IDC's latest worldwide quarterly tracking forecast. But IDC does believe that Apple will be the least impacted vendor because of its control over its supply chain and because iPhone customers are the higher priced segment and are not as impacted with macroeconomic issues like inflation. So this is always good to hear that, but we know that smartphones are always going to continue to sell as well as they can. But hey, iPhones are always going to continue to keep going. What do you think, Kelly?
I think this is really interesting, mostly from the perspective of all the rest of manufacturing. Really, like writ large, like we're still seeing supply chain issues and chip shortage and all kinds of other things. And so to see Apple, at least in one respect, not affected by it, as opposed to like if you want to buy a phone from Apple, that's great. If you want to buy a MacBook Pro charger from Apple, get comfy because it's going to be August before you see that mamma jamma. So I think it's really interesting that they're like, but in phones it's fine. And I mean, computers is the same. Like MacBook Pro, if you want a MacBook Pro with anything with anything that's not the off the rack spec, again, get comfy. So I think it's interesting to find that there's at least one place where this maybe isn't affecting Apple, at least as much as it's affecting everybody else. And I'm curious what the numbers are going to look like on subsequent earnings calls as we find out about this. When Apple, because Apple always talks about supply demand balance, I think is that the phrase that pays, Jeff?
That
demand
sounds
supply
right.
Balance, something like that. The point where you can walk in an Apple store and buy a phone and it's not a big deal and it's not like a special thing that you got a phone. Right. If you just want to walk in and go, I want the entry level iPhone, whatever the new one is, and they go, okay, cool, let me go back and get one and hand it to you. That moment, they always talk about when they achieve that, and I think that that window is going to get a lot wider. If it hasn't already in as far as frank discussion of things like chip shortages and stuff like that, because we've seen it in all kinds of other random seeming manufacturing avenues. And so seeing it here not be quite so bad is kind of a good thing.
Yeah. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, first, I think it's pretty awesome that I totally distracted Kelly by not catching my cat's tail before she walked in front of the camera. Apparently, she's very demanding tonight. I think the big problem here, and Kelly hit on part of this, is component issues. And that's the the big issue that companies are having to deal with. And I don't think it's a lack of demand from consumers that's going to push the numbers down.
Yeah, no, I agree. Any additional thoughts on that, Warren?
A lot of the supply chain issues are blown out a little bit more than you think. We talked 2 weeks ago, there was about a MacBook Pros being hard to find, right. But again, they're sitting on the Best Buy shelves now. Like if you want one, go to Best Buy and it's there. They have a bunch of them. So there's, perception. People, just assume that you can't get it in one place doesn't mean they're floating around and they're out there. So, and I think some of it is going to be, beneficial for Apple because they are very good at making lack of product availability a selling point. That's their game, right? That's why we all wake up at 11:59 a.m. on launch day because we're worried they're going to go.
Stock configurations, like availability is more about like walking in and buying something off the shelf. Like for people who are making shows like this, for people who are listening to shows like this, generally these are folks who are going to want something with a little bit more RAM or a slightly larger hard drive because they're doing something specific and have that requirement that they want, as opposed to just walking in and getting one. Because you can walk into an Apple store and get an M1 machine. Maybe it's an Air. Maybe you can get a sort of off the shelf 14-inch or 16-inch MacBook Pro. But if you need more memory or if you need more storage, then that's the stuff that instead of waiting a week or two like you normally would for something built to order because they don't have one in the store you're standing in to buy, that instead of being a week or maybe two is looking like a month or maybe two, sometimes more, depending on.
And that's happened. I mean, it's not the first time that's happened too. I mean, when you, again, on launch day, when something comes out and we order it, we all do the same thing, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to upgrade this. I'm going to upgrade that. And then you get to the configuration page and the date changes from, launch day to like, some time you don't want to wait. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go back to this base. And I do this every single time. I'm like, okay, get a different config to order model. And every single time I said, screw it. I'm not waiting the extra 3 weeks to go from, I'll not put my music on.
I've done that.
Yeah. I'll not put my music on this laptop and get to 256 instead of 512. You could do things like that. So, I mean, and again, it's Apple's marketing plan has always been,
sure. So
we buy now because we don't have a lot and we don't know when we're getting more. Much before the pandemic started in 2010.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like every iPhone has been this in some way.
Oh, every product is like that. That's why when on launch day, the times keep slipping for almost everything. Yeah. And then it's like, it actually makes news stories when we say things like,
CNBC and
but that kind of
media always jumps on that.
Right. Yeah. But then we'll start making fun of the products that don't sell out like after launch. And we're like, oh, that's a problem. I think things like the HomePod, right? Then that doesn't sell out. So
like Jeff and I have talked more than once over in the TDO era about Apple Watch. And isn't it weird that like you can't walk in and buy one? Because you couldn't walk in and buy one for like months.
Yeah, it was
you could get one. You could walk in and say, "Hi, I'm here to buy an Apple Watch. Please take my money." And they would go, "Okay,
sorry.
Let me open up the iPhone, order the Apple Store app for you, and I'll stand here and take your order for you. What color, what size, blah 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 blah." But there was no, "Let me go in back and get you one and come out and hand it to you, and you can walk out of the store with one." And that went on for a really long time, and it was a very odd experience. I mean, it was I liked the idea of going into the store and like getting to try them on and see what you liked and all that kind of stuff. Like that was super cool. But we were talking to Jeff about him actually doing it, and Jeff going, "It's really weird." And me going,
was really weird.
It sounds really weird. He's like, "Guess what? It is really weird."
Yeah, it was really weird.
It was weird.
Happened many times. Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next story here.
They brought you to a special room, by the way. I don't know if they did that with you too. when you tried on the watches when they first came out, the first gen, you couldn't just try the bands on like out there. Like they actually took they took you to a back room and showed you a bunch of bands and said,
wow, they're a lot more trusting here.
Well, this was a thing in the first gen,
Series 0.
I think it was kind of also like a selling point for fashion. Like it's more exclusive to all that. But.
Yeah. All right. Next story: App Store stopped 1.6 million risky and untrustworthy apps from defrauding users, says Apple. The App Store prevented 1.6 million risky and untrustworthy apps from defrauding users in 2021, according to a new fraud analysis data that was shared by Apple actually today. That's yesterday as we record this. Apple says that the App Store stopped that many of about 1.5 billion in fraudulent transactions during the year. And they have a show a grid here: 34,500 apps rejected containing hidden or undocumented features, and it goes on and on. But they did reject more than 34,000 apps for the hidden features. Jeez, that's a lot, and more than 157,000 that were spam or copycat apps. 343,000 apps were rejected for various privacy violations. So. Makes me feel even better the fact that I'm in the Apple ecosystem and using the App Store, because I know that those garbage apps aren't going to be out there like that. They're Android counterparts. What do you think, Jeff?
I think that is a nice side effect of this press release going out. The feeling that, oh, wow, this is really protecting me. This press release went out because Apple wanted to make sure that all of the legal teams involved in the Epic case and that all of the legislators in the EU that are talking about, well, all these app stores should just be open. This press release went out to help establish the case for why that shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, I agree. What do you think, Warren?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was playing with my Google tablet yesterday and went into the Play Store and got scared. So, yeah.
Wait, Google makes a tablet again?
Yeah.
It's an Android. It's a Samsung, I think.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
They
have those things.
Yeah.
The Pixel, I don't remember if it was a Pixel or not, but Google made at one point, Google made its own tablet, and it was a super great tablet. And it just sort of got so old I couldn't really do anything of consequence with it anymore, and I had to get rid of it. But it was a super nice way to get to play with Android and not have to worry about it. So
I generally keep.
I was all excited for a minute there.
Well, I generally keep one Android tablet around with me. I've had since they've come out.
How about an Android phone? You got to have both.
I had one Android phone when it first came out. It was the Motorola. It was a Droid. It wasn't. It was the first Droid.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have an Amazon Fire that I added Google Play onto.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really the same, but yeah.
I had one of those too, and I ended up selling it. Oh no!
I mean, I got it for
Fire
app
phone,
testing.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's probably somewhere in this room. I have no idea where it is.
I have 3 Amazon tablets in a drawer upstairs, 4, 5,
Kindles?
6. And
Is one of them Jeff's?
Probably.
I
You
offered
sent me
them.
back my tablet.
I offered them to my in-laws, and they didn't. And they take everything.
What? I don't want that.
I'm like, really? They're still tablets.
She's gonna go get one. I was gonna.
I'll go upstairs and get the 3 I have, and the one the Samsung one. But I think the Samsung one's at the other house.
Yeah,
Kelly, do you have any additional thoughts on this story?
I wish they did it more regularly. This is like Jeff. I was standing downwind of this press release when it went out, and I got a real strong. And
it smelled like Greeley.
I got a real strong whiff of look at us. As opposed to this being a thing is a matter of course. You see the companies that put out here are all the law enforcement requests we got in the last month or the last quarter, and that comes out regularly as a thing. It doesn't get, trumpets and parades every time. It's just a thing. We put this up on this section of our website. You can go see all of this data if you so choose. And I wish that they did the same thing like that with the App Store. Like there should be some sort of app statistics so that you can see in the last 30 days, we rejected 10,000 apps for being sketchy. We rejected 15,000 apps for being flashlights that wanted access to your contacts, et cetera, et cetera. Like it would be nice if this were a more regular piece of information that came out through standard channels and we just sort of got it all the time. And I would much rather have it be something like that than something calculated. This feels in this moment, because of when they put it out, because of all of the wording they use in the press release, it feels very calculated. I'm glad they do it. Like as a concept, I am for this. I want it to happen. I want people to be paying attention to it. But I also feel like the only time we ever hear about the app rejections is when you hear about it from, someone we know or someone who is trying to do the right thing and got rejected for a stupid reason. You told me I had to upgrade all my app icons and then I did. And then you rejected my app for something that's been in the app since 4 versions ago. And now all of a sudden you're mad about it. It's that, we hear about those stories all the time, but we never get any of these that are like, did you know that we rejected 10,000 apps that were all trying to scam your credit card information? Like in a month?
Yeah.
Like if we got it more regularly and it wasn't so newsworthy that this had happened, then I would be a lot happier about it.
Keep in mind those 10,000 that they're rejecting are part of the people doing the right thing. And that's just, that's a slope, right?
No, so, I mean the specific, like there's a line item when you get rejected, they tell you why. And there should be a line item for like, every time we reject one of these, it goes up on the board, like a 0 days without an incident. It should be something like that. We rejected this many of them for being flashlight apps that want access to your contacts at, whatever that rule is called. And something like that.
We hear from developers all the time that they're legit developers and they're going to reject it all the time from Apple. So, I mean, when Apple comes out and say we rejected 10,000 applications and we're like, oh, that's great. 3,000 could be legit hungry developers. And that's it.
Well, and like but the one, like there are obvious scammy things, but then, there are still obviously scammy things in the App Store. So, when I saw this press release go by, the first thing I thought about was not long ago when we were all on Mac Voices Live talking about a weekly subscription, the app that wanted to charge you for a weekly subscription. And that was all I could think of was like someone in Cupertino heard Jim, hi, Jim. So Jim. Like, I wish this were not a newsworthy thing. I wish it was a thing that came out as a matter of course all the time, like regularly every quarter. It was, the standard sort of stuff that we get, like as part of the earnings call, just another piece of data that just comes out as part of what they're doing to be doing the right thing, as opposed to this feels like, hey, look at us. We're doing the right thing. Look over here. See how we did that? Like, there are a lot of reasons that would be that, that make that feel like a very calculated move. Is really like in context, it feels a little less like they have earned gratitude and more like, an adoration for having done it. And it should be more like, you keep doing that, like the environmental report that they put out every year. Like that doesn't get a lot of attention anymore. And it shouldn't. It should just be a thing that everybody does. And it should just be the way of things. And I wish that this were part of that sort of checklist of stuff that they put out on a regular basis.
It should be. All right, let's next story here. YouTube on TVs now support iPhone syncing for easier access to content, commenting, liking, and more. YouTube this week announced the launch of a new syncing feature that allows iOS or Android device to connect to a TV that has the YouTube app, allowing the connected device to be used for commenting, liking videos, and more. According to YouTube, people were already using the mobile app to engage with YouTube videos and watched it on their TV sets, but they decided to take advantage of that and improved it by having this experience on the TV. So when you're watching YouTube on TV, you can open up the mobile app on your iPhone and tap connect to sync to the device on the TV. And then, of course, the feature does require that you be logged into the same YouTube account on both the TV and the device. So that obviously isn't going to work. More things that Google is doing with YouTube, and this is a good experience if you want to be able to watch now from a TV instead of being on your mobile device. What do you think, Jeff?
Good. It's for people that are using YouTube like this. It makes sense that that you'd be able to do the syncing across everything and not just in specific places. So good on them for doing the right thing.
Yep. And Warren, what do you think on this?
No, but for all the things I interact with, YouTube is not one of them. I'm not a big. I watch videos, but I don't think I ever liked anything or subscribed or commented.
Oh, come on. I got
YouTube thing.
subscribers.
If you've ever watched anything on YouTube, they've asked you to like and subscribe and mash that bell. What's wrong with you, Warren?
Right.
Because
He's a rebel.
Because I don't.
He's a rebel.
I want my YouTube to. It's too complicated, is what it is. Just trying to keep. YouTube.
I pay for. And I pay for YouTube Premium, so I mean,
not anymore, Warren. Now you can just point your phone at your TV and it's all magic, right?
Yeah, it's magic.
Listen, somebody sends me a link to a video. I click it. Video plays. I close.
And you watch the ads.
No, I don't. Yeah, I have to watch the ads, and I'll skip through that.
What do you think, Kelly?
I feel like this is just sort of inevitable that second screen sort of stuff is going to happen and happen more frequently. And I'm interested to see where it goes because this sounds like a second screen experience. Like I can watch it up here and I can come down here and comment, I can heckle Jeff on his live stream about cats or whatever.
Yes, please.
I mean, well, cat video is part of the internet. So it was, no great leap of logic. And so I was just sort of hoping, like, I'm hoping that this is a good experience because I want everything to be a good user experience. But if it's a good experience and it's effective and it's a thing that gets people's attention and it's a thing that works well, I look forward to seeing other ways that that's happening. Like you open IMDb and it listens to the sound in the room. Here's the movie that you're watching and pulls that up for you so that all you have to do is scroll down to find who is that. I said, hey, it's that guy. I opened IMDb and it already takes me to the movie so that I can go, oh, it's that guy. Oh, he used to be on Days of Our Lives. And then I can move on with my life. Right. So I want to, which happens more than you think, that it's somebody that used to be on Days of Our Lives. Just saying. That like, I want to know, I want that stuff to be cool. Like with Amazon Prime Video with the X-ray feature, like they have in books, they have that in video as well because they own IMDb. So obviously they've got that at their fingertips. But I want to see more second screen kind of stuff like this because it's not like it's going away. And so I want to see how other places are creative in getting that implemented.
By the way,
free V.
By the way, Jeff was in Days of Our Lives.
Everyone was.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but a whole lot more people than you think. Some of them were on Passions or Another World.
I was Dr. Drake DeMurray.
That's
General
why
Hospital.
You look so familiar, Warren. You were fantastic.
The famous hand model. This hand is your hand. Oh, no, that's my hand.
All right, moving on.
Your hand.
Apple Memo says original iPad Pro, and strangely, the Apple TV HD will become vintage product next month. Apple is planning to add the first generation iPad Pro. I'm so sad. I have one that I use for demos to its vintage product list at the end of June. The company announced this week in an internal memo distributed by 2 Apple stores and authorized service providers. Of course, when a product becomes vintage after more than 5 years have passed since Apple last distributed it for sale, vintage products previously were ineligible for service at Apple, but Apple stores and authorized service providers now offer repairs for vintage products for up to an additional 2 years. Of course, the iPad Pro, I have a 12.9 inch. That came out. That was in November of 2015. Wow, time has just flown by here. And that display was significantly larger than the 9.7 inch that they had on all the other models. And it's a great iPad. I'm really sad to hear, and it still works. I mean, it's got an A9X processor chip in it, and 8 megapixel camera. Had the home button with Touch ID.
No, I mean, I know it's going to look exactly the same the day after.
I know don't be sad. It's still going to work.
It's fine. And I got just one question for you guys. Has anybody ever brought an Apple TV to the Apple Store to be fixed? Ever?
No.
Exactly.
I haven't.
You?
Well, the Apple TV HD.
Any of them. But yes.
Yes, because mine kept falling off the Wi-Fi, and it was some sort of like known issue. And I booked an appointment and took it to them and went, yeah, it won't stay on my network. Like,
here's a new one.
And they went, okay, well, let's test it. And they plugged in like an iPod to it. And I was like, okay, now I need to ask you like 200 more questions before I'm done with this transaction. And like, how did you do that? And what do you have loaded on there? And how does that work? And
yeah, see, I never got that. You know, all of them either worked or didn't work when I first got them, and I went back to Best Buy or Apple and got a new one and plugged it in. I mean,
that was the solution. Was I took it to them and they were like, oh, and then they like plugged in this iPod and looked at a bunch of stuff on it and then went, oh, hang on, and then brought me out a new one and went, here you go. Like so. Yeah.
Strangely, they're doing the Apple TV HD.
They don't die. I have them just laying around the house, and like there's.
It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in the category of vintage. So that's kind of strange. Even before the WWDC conference that's coming up, it'd be far too soon to really classify it as vintage per Apple's current
that's
definition.
Why I'm calling fakety fake on this one, because
that part.
You don't vintage a product that you're currently selling.
Yeah.
And
it's
they're selling the 4K
for sale. Like you can get.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I just double checked on Apple's website, and not only can I have one shipped immediately, if we wrap up in time, I can run over to my local Apple store and buy one
and just pick it up.
Well, that's why the article says question mark next to the Apple TV HD. So this is
not happening.
This is a rumor.
Yeah. I mean, because even the old ones, like, you know, the old ones even are super nice. If nothing else, as an AirPlay conduit. If you don't have a new enough TV that it'll do AirPlay for you, you can plug the Apple TV in and just AirPlay stuff that way. You know, if you really want to.
Side note is I tried that with this guy, and the AirPlay experience is not so good as
That's because you have to plug it in first.
Yeah, you do have to plug it in. Mine was good. I still have a really old one that's plugged into a TV we don't use very often, so that if nothing else, I can just go stream whatever I want on that screen instead.
AirPlay.
So after, I can't remember, you guys will have to correct me on this, but after something is vintage, 5 years after it's vintage, it goes retro, and then they start like putting it on t-shirts, right?
Yeah. That's how it works.
Remember when?
Or obsolete.
Obsolete, such a bad word.
Kelly, you're going to get the Apple TV HD t-shirt.
Well, it's not vintage yet, so no.
No, it's not yet.
But the iPod next story here.
Next story here, Google TV app is now available on iOS. It replaces the Play Movies and TV. Almost 2 years after it hit Android, the Google TV app has finally come into iOS for iPhone and the iPad users. Revamped app replaces that Play Movies and TV app. You know, we all use that, right? That like it just did on the Android, but the new experience will be delivered via an update to the App Store, which will start rolling out today as we record this. What is new? Like the existing Play Movies TV app, you'll be able to view your purchased movies and all the other fun stuff. But the one thing you'll now be able to do is you'll actually be able to control, if you have an Android TV device hooked up to your TV, or a Google or a Chrome, or whether it's a Chromecast, Google TV, any of those devices will now be able to control it. Which is devices that are running Android 8 or higher. So good. Looks like good for Google. I see that they're trying to incorporate with iPhone more and more, and I don't think this is a bad thing. What do you think, Kelly?
So Charlotte Henry and I have talked about this a lot, and what we've talked about is the terrible branding that Apple has done with TV, because there's a TV app, which is not the same as TV Plus, which is not the same as the Apple TV, which is the little box device we were just talking about, that if you're watching the video version of this, Warren was just holding up. All of those are not the same thing, but they kind of all have the same name. And Apple does this every once in a while, and it's really infuriating because it makes it hard to talk about stuff because nobody's on the same page, because we don't all know what we're all talking about. And also it makes it hard to like do research, do web searches and things, and get results that are useful to you, because all of the results are about the other thing that you were looking for. You know, good luck finding an article about a specific TV Plus thing that you're trying to do, because you can't, so
yeah.
So I thought Apple had completely been wrong-headed about this until I saw what Google was up to, and that's because Google also owns YouTube, and YouTube has YouTube TV, but YouTube TV and Google TV aren't the same thing. And what you get on one device, whatever that one device is not going to be the same experience as what you get on the others. So it could be on your iOS phone, it could be on your Android phone, it could be on a Chromecast, it could be on like a Fire TV is going to be yet another flavor of the same thing, or it could be an app that's built into your television or some other like box or stick that you plug in and use as your streaming device. So on the one hand, like I'm glad that they're paying attention to the iOS app, and that it's because it sounds like this has been an evolution that's been going on over time. Like, I think some of the TVs had already made this change in the apps that they were getting on whatever operating system that is, and now it's happening for other devices as well, which is good. I'm glad Google's being consistent about it, but there's a word I would use here that I'm not going to use here, but it's a very particular kind of show, we'll call it. And
an unsanitary type of show.
A very unsanitary type of show. And it sounds like it's just a really frustrating experience if that's the thing you were into. Like, part of the takeaway I had from this initially was, what's Google TV? Isn't that just YouTube TV? But no, they're totally different. And it's weird and feels very awkward. And I don't know what the difference is. And I already have enough streaming nonsense to worry about that I just don't have room in my brain for another to even consider. So I'm glad they're doing it. And, both Eb and Zeb, as my dad would say, are going to be super excited when they get this new experience rolled out to their iOS devices, because that's literally the only two people who are going to care.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this, Jeff?
If you're going to sell televisions or have your service on televisions, you better make sure that that the popular smartphone platforms that people are using to control these televisions have the tools that they need. So there you go. So doing this is a good move, and everything Kelly said about branding, that applies too.
Any last thoughts, Warren, before we move on? He shook his head.
Yeah, no. It's like Kelly said, not that many people care, and I'm one of those many people who don't care about it. So, I mean, I'm sure it's good and it's great, but not a feature for me. So.
But I know this next story is going to make Warren pretty happy.
Is it beta?
Tesla is considering adopting Apple's AirPlay to improve audio quality.
No, they're not.
Elon Musk said that Tesla is going to consider adopting the Apple's AirPlay protocol to improve the audio quality over the current Bluetooth. Recent years, Tesla has put an emphasis on the sound system inside its vehicles, and the sound system in the Model 3 has been well received for audiophiles. And the one in the new version of the Model S has also received some positive reviews. And it has been compared to the expensive Bang & Olufsen system often found in premium vehicles, but at the fraction of their price. This could be interesting for these Tesla owners. Well, I'll open it right up to you, Warren. What do you think of this?
I don't listen to anything what Elon Musk says could be happening, because it may, but you'll forget that you were excited about it when it might come out. So,
And let's stress this is AirPlay, not CarPlay, which everybody wants.
Which I still don't understand, because AirPlay is Bluetooth. What do you need the AirPlay? What are you doing different that's not
AirPlay also uses Wi-Fi. It negotiates over Bluetooth.
I know what the difference.
Wi-Fi.
I know what the difference is, and that is good for a couple things. But in a car, what is it good for as much as it would be for like a TV?
Well, the stress is audiophile, and I don't know if you're necessarily that, Warren, but I mean that in itself is going to improve the sound quality, and especially if you're streaming it from your iPhone.
The AirPlay. I mean, again, it's hard. It's hard to, even audiophiles are not going to hear much of a difference in a car between Bluetooth and AirPlay. I don't think, but whatever. It's fine. The Bluetooth is adequate. It sounds pretty good in the Tesla as it is. So,
any other thoughts, Jeff?
For people that it matters to, this would be a good thing.
Right. Doesn't matter
because
none of us support.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
We don't have a Tesla, but like the difference that I can hear in audio quality in my Prius, which granted it's Prius and it's not the top of the line model. The compression that I hear in Bluetooth audio streaming is surprising. And then if I plug in directly so that it's not Bluetooth, I mean, you can hear a difference. But that said, Warren's right. A car is not the place for an audiophile to be calling out the quality of the music sound. A car is a horrible environment for listening to music. So, really, if you can hear it and make out what the music is, great. In a car, that's good enough. And if you're expecting to have your Bang & Olufsen home stereo with Macintosh receiver and amp experience in your car, then
you've lost your mind.
Yeah, you would be sorely disappointed.
Like, I mean, right. Am I sitting out in these cars listening to music? Like lounging out there, like I am in front of like a stereo? No, it doesn't make sense. It's not this again. The Bluetooth sound from the phone is really good. So I don't know how much better it would be. And I know you notice a difference, Jeff, but some Bluetooth is better than others, right? Some of the older Bluetooth is not as good as some of the LE, and I don't know what's in the new cars.
Right.
So it might be a different type of technology.
Iterations of Bluetooth are a hardware limitation. So, like there is no software upgrade that is going to take the Bluetooth radio in a 2010 automobile and make it compatible with the current iteration of Bluetooth in 2022. Simply not going to happen.
It will accept it
goes to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah,
right. But it reflects a moment in time. So the Bluetooth in an older automobile is never going to get better. And the interesting thing about doing something like CarPlay is that if you have really nice speakers in your transport, then how you connect to them, the quality of that could improve depending on what connection capability you're using, as opposed to just straight Bluetooth where as far as music goes, especially if you're streaming it, like if you're using Apple Music on your phone and sending that to the car radio, I'm here to tell you that is a suboptimal experience at best, even when the speakers are really good. So, because I've done it on mediocre speakers and I've done it on really awesome speakers, and neither one is anywhere near as good as like a CD or even an SD card. If you've got an infotainment system that is so inclined, even that being local is still going to be a much better experience, even if it's an MP3. So, I'm just interested to see that a lot of stuff is moving away from having the hardware be the limitation and turning it into something where the software might be a better way to handle something like that, so that you can still kind of get a reasonable experience out of the audio in the car for years to come, because they don't upgrade every 12 to 24 months. Most people aren't upgrading cars like they upgrade phones and stuff like that. And every time I get a new phone, the transport I currently pilot, because that makes it sound a little bit cooler, hates my phone in an interesting new way every time I get a new phone. And I can't do anything about it because it's set in stone in the transport that I have. And the only way I can get around it is by buying a new stereo the next time I buy a new phone.
All right, let's go to the last story here. Apple's HomePod is finally going to return this year. Okay. Yay. Apple's HomePod may make an unexpected return later this year, according to reputable Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo. He recently said that Apple Ming-Chi Kuo.
Might be
Sorry,
Kuo.
mispronouncing. He says that Apple is planning to release a newer version of the HomePod, but warned that there may not be much innovation in the hardware design with the new HomePod Mini, and they're still trying to figure out how to succeed in this market. News is fairly unexpected, given Apple discontinued the HomePod last year, partly due to its lackluster sales, and it said it was focusing on the HomePod Mini going forward. There is no word what size the new HomePod will be, or if there will be a HomePod Mini successor, or is there going to be a larger speaker. So Mark Gurman from Bloomberg previously said that Apple was considering the new version of the HomePod, and it might be sized between the two, but we'll see. But we'll see what happens here. I still like my HomePod, the old HomePods. It was discontinued in 2018. We talked about in previous shows that there was pretty good market for the old ones. People selling them for higher than what they were when they were new. So, Jeff, you being the HomePod enthusiast, what do you think of this?
First, Ming-Chi Kuo is consistently accurate in the same way that DigiTimes is consistently wrong, meaning they both have a reputation that they haven't earned. But they also do the same thing, which is get a little bit of nugget of information and then weave that into a whole idea. And so there's probably something right in this, but his interpretation may be wrong. So what I think is likely more accurate is that Apple has other products in the HomePod line that they're looking at, and one of those may come out this year or next year.
Agreed.
What do you think, Kelly?
Well, I think Apple initially got the value proposition wrong on the HomePod, is what I think. I know what they were selling. And what they were selling was a really awesome speaker for people who don't have them already and would like to be able to talk to it, which is a very different thing. And then everybody put it up against Echo devices, your Echo Base, your Echo Dot, all of those, and acted like they were competitors that they really weren't, because what Amazon is selling you with one of those devices with an A-Lady built in is an assistant you can talk to that will also play music and stuff on what sounds like a crappy Bluetooth speaker, because that's all that's really in most of them, at least, initially. It's kind of a not great Bluetooth speaker. So you're not going to get an awesome speaker for a $25 device. You're just not. So, they were trying to solve very different problems. And I think that's part of where the HomePod didn't happen. But I can see a lot of opportunity in the line. Like, we can get a HomePod Max, which is a larger HomePod Mini that has a little bit nicer sound profile and is a little bit higher end, like the OG HomePod was. The HomePod TV, they finally make a sound bar for people, and maybe that comes out under like all of the smarts that they built into the computational audio of the HomePod and the HomePod Mini. They bring that to bear on sound bars, and maybe instead of making the Apple TV stick, which is the thing that I have wanted forever, and I probably shouted about here more than one time, having the Apple TV, I think, Jeff, you and I think built this product before, and it was like all of the computational audio of the HomePod and an Apple TV, and you build it into a sound bar. And I think you called it the HomePod Theater, or the Apple TV Theater, something like that. Theater was in the name, I remember.
Theater was in the name. Yep.
And like, I could see that being a really compelling offering under either name. Like, for a lot of people who want something like that and don't necessarily have, the ridiculous audio in the closet to support it that I have behind me. So I think there's a lot of ways that the HomePod could go, making it a resident device, all of the Thread and Matter discussion that we've seen, and the fact that HomePod Minis support that and the originals don't. Like, I could totally see them coming out with something else that's called a HomePod, and maybe it's a Max, maybe it's a Pro. Get a pair of these next to your, so that you've got a really nice audio system hooked up to your Max Studio and go to town. Right. So I can totally see that being a thing that happens. So I like Jeff. I think they heard hooves and went, clearly this is zebras, and it turns out it's really just horses.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the topics. We're getting run a little long on news here this week, so I just want to kind of move things along here.
Good have a thought about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's go ahead move on here. So beta this week, not much to say about it. 15.6 beta 2 came out this week for developers. The only thing that did stand out there was discovered that in 15.6 that it fixed that bug that was forcing the reinstall of the music, Apple Music in the dock after reinstalling the app. So there was a bug in iOS 15 that was causing the Apple Music to automatically add to the dock, without your permission, I guess we'd say. So they did update to that. As far as the new beta goes, there's really nothing that was ever mentioned. I'm assuming you are not experiencing anything through you run a beta, right, Warren?
Yep, all good.
Yeah, there's nothing going on here. So, we got a couple of stories here we could talk about here, and one of them was I know Jeff had some thoughts about this topic, and I wanted to bring it up here. Is Apple Music has betrayed its most loyal listeners. That ad-free music service has now has ads in its radio stations and interviews and playlists. There's two articles we're linking to. One of them was written by Jason Snell over on at Macworld, and we all complain and see about how much ads are in everything that we listen to. We are paying for Apple Music as a service. I guess you could go back to the analogy when back in the old days when we used to subscribe to. You remember when you subscribed to those print subscriptions of a magazine? You're paying for that, and then you have to also read the ads, right? Mm-hmm. But this is something pretty bad. I don't think Apple should be doing this. We pay for this service, and it really isn't something that they should be doing. I know, Jeff, you've had some good thoughts on this, I believe.
Comparing this to magazines is
not
you
don't like
right.
that comparison? Okay.
Even though I know some people have done that. When you bought a magazine, you weren't buying it with the magazine telling you, and we're ad free, and then there's a whole spread of ads in there. Yeah. When you're paying for your Apple Music subscription, it is explicitly listed as ad free.
Yes.
So injecting ads into those various streams goes against what Apple says you are paying for. And using semantics like saying that this isn't actually an ad, it's a discovery feature, doesn't make it less of an ad, and it shouldn't be there. It
makes it not music. And if what I'm listening to is a radio station that is playing me music, and you stop the music to tell me a thing about other music, that's a commercial. The end. Is it for the service that I'm on and not and you're just trying to make it so that I don't leave the service? Yes. Is it still an ad? Yes. It was funny watching this. I watched this unfold on Twitter because I took a peek into Twitter and I saw Jim Dalrymple ranting about this, and I saw the reply from Jason who said, I've seen this too. And Jim, I believe, had some choice words about it. Fruity language, I think that's usually called.
Yes.
And grown-up talk.
Yeah. And then Jason's reply was like, I have a column for this week. My theory on this is that there's going to be another tier of Apple Music, and that it's going to be a Pandora style situation, or a free Spotify style situation where you can listen for a certain amount of time if you sit through some ads, and just to entice you to do the Apple Music voice plan that they tried to tell us was going to be a thing, that I literally don't know a single person who is subscribed to that.
Neither do I.
I think that there's probably a free tier coming, and I think that's why we are getting these, is because there's going to be sort of breaks in the regular broadcasts anyway. And if you're paying, you just get, hey, if you're listening to the hard rock channel, maybe you would like the heavy metal channel, and and other people are going to get ads for Domino's or whatever. I don't know, but I don't like it either. I would also call shenanigans on this, because that's not it. if I'm listening to Apple's radio stations, I don't need commercials to tell me to continue to listen to Apple's radio stations. This ranks right up there with the Blu-ray commercial that you cannot skip at the beginning of a Blu-ray disc. Sweetie, no.
Yeah.
No. This is why people pirate stuff, is because if I pirate a copy of this movie, you get no money, but I never have to sit through that ad ever. And as long as you make that
sometimes is 10 minutes long.
Yes.
And unskippable. And I don't like it. And I don't like that it sort of feels like Apple is taking advantage because they're just saying, we're calling it Discovery. Like, you have Discovery, you have the friends list, you have the friends mix, the new music mix, the favorites mix, you have artist inspired radio. You know, I can go listen to OMD and similar artists, or Depeche Mode and similar artists, Foo Fighters and similar artists. That's a lot of Discovery already. And you can give me and I have discovered a whole lot of stuff as a result of some of those things. So I find it really sort of irritating that Apple's response to this was, all those ads you're hearing aren't really ads. You know, that's a very, I'm sorry if you're offended sort of thing. Like putting it back on me because I'm mad about it instead of admitting that what you did wasn't cool. And, not a fan.
Yeah. What do you think, Warren?
I'm with Kelly. Please don't stop the music.
There you go.
Wait, Warren is here and agreed with me?
I definitely agree with you. Please don't stop the music. There's two types of people. There's people like us that are Apple Music, people that don't want to listen to ads, and then there's people like my in-laws who listen to free Spotify, and it drives me crazy. So like, well, you know, if we're outside, so fetch me my finger. Well, when we're outside, listening to music by the pool, I want to use my music because I have Apple Music and I don't have to listen to commercials. But they always want to put their stupid music on, and we have to listen to commercials. So,
well, Warren, the way you solve this is you just add the Yacht Rock playlist to your favorites on Apple Music, and then they'll never know the difference.
Yeah.
No, but they want to control. They need to control it. They need to have full control of the playlist. We bring a Bluetooth speaker out, and then they fight over who's going to connect to it with their phone. Is what happens.
This is a problem that's easily solved with a hammer. You're welcome.
Or earplugs.
Earplugs.
Or earplugs.
And it's interesting. Apple hasn't even reacted to this. They obviously don't care. So, there's nothing being said.
I think
officially, anyway.
Due to the timing of this, that's why I think that there's a reason behind it, that there's more to the story. And that there's some sort of like ad sponsored that's coming is because of that. That's why I think they're not going to say anything about it now, because Monday they're going to have a whole lot to say about it.
Yeah.
That might be. Weren't they talking about this for a while though? A free, because they released.
Well, Apple hasn't been talking about this.
Yeah. No, but Apple, they're trying, right? So the last thing they would try was a stupid thing where you could only listen to Apple Music through Siri, right?
Yeah.
For like the $5.
That's $5 a month. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Apple Music Voice, I think, or whatever it was.
Which who knows if it did anything, but that was their goal. Their goal is to get kids listening to Apple Music, and kids are cheap as SHIT, and they will not pay. So Apple is trying their best to get them to do it.
I have to beep that too.
Right. Well, so Apple's doing their best to, basically get them to switch to Apple Music. And first step they did was try to make it cheaper with this Siri thing. And I think the next step, Kelly's absolutely right. I think Monday is going to be a Spotify-ish kind of Apple Music.
That'd be a weird thing to announce at WWDC.
No, it's not.
It'd be very
it'd be very weird to announce that at WWDC. Yeah. That said, this is also very not Apple to do a free service. At the same time, Kelly, you're right.
You are right. I'll agree with you too.
All right, drop your mic, Kelly.
Hold on, let me write
you just won the internet.
I just won the internet. I'm writing this down.
Right there, write it down. All right, and finally we close with the big thing that's going to go on this next week, WWDC 2022. I wanted to go around and see if anybody has their thoughts on what Apple's going to announce. I have this distinct feeling there's going to be some new OSs. I have to think so. But
that's weird.
Jeff, have you been? It would be really weird. Jeff, have you been giving it some thought on what you think of importance besides all the OS updates we know that's going to be happening that Apple would potentially announce?
I'm going to throw a real oddball one out at you.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that Apple has a potential to announce an addition to their whole enterprise device management platform that gives the companies their own hardware for managing all of the apps and other updates and provisioning files that they push out to everything. So they have a new way to control the updates and everything else that they push out to all of their employees. Totally out there, just me grabbing at all these little threads that have been coming along over the past several months and thinking, if you put these threads together this way, here's the tapestry that comes out of it.
How do you mean hardware? Like the developer program so that you can test stuff, or
no, it's a piece of hardware that you have control over. So you're hosting everything that gets pushed out through your MDM.
Okay.
So you're not relying on anything through the cloud, except like if you're grabbing something from the App Store that you're going to push out to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
So totally
that's in the neighborhood of
way
mine.
out there.
Yeah.
But there's enough threads to make me think it could happen.
Let's go to Kelly's neighborhood. Maybe she's got something.
I mean, yeah. Jeff, hello and welcome. I run a home for Crackpot Theories.
That's right where this one belongs.
Yeah. I think this year we're going to hear a lot more about enterprise because it's the Worldwide Developers Conference. I think we're going to get and this comes from Jeff talking about, the threads over the last few months. The Mac Admins Foundation is a thing that was quietly announced by Apple well before the actual foundation, because I know a number of people who are founders of the foundation were sort of not ready for them to kind of unveil and, casually at the bottom of a press release from Apple. But there are a lot of there has been a lot of chatter on that front, a lot of changes that have been made on the back end as far as how you can deploy Apple hardware and software at scale, whether that scale is tens of devices, hundreds, thousands. Apple released Apple Business Essentials to allow people to have a lightweight MDM that is flexibly priced and easy to use. There are a lot of other options for enterprise deployment. All of those things have been easier. So I think what we're going to get is fundamental changes to the App Store that make it easier for things to be enterprise deployed apps. They used to be called VPP or volume purchase plan apps. I think having a VPP app is going to be a lot easier. It's going to be a thing that's not going to be a whole huge deal. I think it's going to be easier to deploy things internally. So if we, the InTouch with iOS internal app for the InTouch iOS media empire is a thing that is going to be a lot easier to build over time. There's, I think that we're going to hear a lot more about enterprise and how to develop for enterprise, ways to manage that stuff for enterprise, because there aren't a lot of other avenues for people who deal with Apple hardware at scale to all get together and discuss things. And a lot of folks were really excited about WWDC just to be able to get their hands on an Apple engineer to talk about deploying hundreds of phones, deploying hundreds of Macs, deploying thousands of iPads, being able to do these things remotely or, in a whole nother country, in a whole nother part of the world. And so I think we're going to get more focus on enterprise. And I think that we're going to find out like maybe what the next evolution is for for the App Store and for relationships, everybody's relationship to the App Store, basically, whether you're an enterprise organization looking to deploy things via the App Store effectively, whether you are a developer trying to roll things out to an App Store, whether you are a user who's interacting with the App Store. Maybe they tell us that the 30% is now going to be 28%, instead 27.5%. Right. Maybe, it's going to be easier for a lot of things to happen in a way that allows people to get those apps deployed at scale. Is my hope. I know we're going to get new macOS, new iOS, new iPadOS. I'm really interested. I feel like macOS is reasonably mature, so there's not going to be a ton of stuff that comes out that's going to be terribly exciting. I think iOS is the same. It's reasonably mature. There's not a lot that's going to be terribly exciting. tvOS doesn't have a whole lot of capability, so there's not a whole lot of room for truckloads of innovation on the TV side. So really the things I want to watch are iPadOS, which is relatively new, and find out if Apple is ever going to figure out how much stuff people are actually doing with their iPads and actually turn it into an actual device. Now that you have told me that the processor in my tablet is powerful enough to run an entire laptop computer, an entire desktop computer, now that that's the same processor, let me do more things with the one that's in my tablet that is obviously an impressive computing platform. Let me do some impressive computing with it. I say this all the time. Every year I hope this is the year, and every year Apple pulls away that football and I fall flat on my back. So I watch iPadOS with extra interest because of the evolution there, because there's still a lot of things that they could do to turn it into something really great and unleash the power that they've been selling us for all these years. And watchOS is still, I think, still has a lot of interesting avenues to pursue and is not very mature. We're only at version 9 is what we're going to get announced next week. Right. And I know Apple is always betting big on health. So I think there's probably going to be some interesting health features there. And then other ways that they are finding to make the little tiny ARM computer do a lot more on its own, be more independent, and do a lot more interesting things for you. So iPadOS and watchOS are the ones I think have the most room to be interesting and new and exciting in a way that's like the old iPhones were. Like every time we got a new iPhone, there was a massive new feature, whether it was a software feature or a hardware feature. We got something brand new that was huge. Like now you can unlock your phone with your thumb. Now you can unlock it with your face. Now you can buy stuff. Like each of those was like a fundamental change along the way. And we're still seeing those changes in watchOS, and hopefully in iPadOS, we'll get more of the same.
I agree with you on the iPad. I think the iPad Pro is going to become more of a pro type device. I mean, two things that stand out to me the most, I think that I'm predicting, I'm crossing my fingers too, is desktop mode. I think that in itself has been a long time coming. I mean, I think the iPad really needs to become more of a desktop, because that's where people are struggling and having a difficult time making it their 100% full-time device. I mean, I'm the same way. I've talked about that lots of times in presentations about it. So I think I have this good feeling that this is going to be the year that they finally have spent some time on iPadOS. I hope the other thing I'm really crossing my fingers on the desktop mode part. The other thing I'm hoping, and it's been talked about for years and years, is multiple users. You want to be able to have a device just like you have a Mac. You can. I know it's not going to happen, but it's wishful thinking. Sure. I'm again. Those are just two things that really stood out to me as far as the iPad goes. But I agree with you, Kelly. As far as the watchOS, there's going to be some pretty revolutionary things. I have this feeling it's going to get announced too. Warren, do you have any thoughts of what you think is going to be announced that you've been thinking of?
Sure. Well, first, I predict that this will be the last week of my Apple devices behaving nicely. Next week
you'll be on iOS 16 in no time.
Well, this time next week, If you don't see me on the Zoom call or video call or any technology related activity, it's because things are on fire and they're not working. So. Which could happen.
That's why we love you, Ward.
So I'll be doing that for sure. And then I'm not going to fall for the same thing I do every year with the iPad. I'm going to see something that they're going to say they're going to be doing with the iPad, and it's going to be great. And I'm like, this is great. Yep. Now I want that big iPad again that I keep buying it and selling. And then I'm kind of like, so last year I bought it, waiting for universal control. That took forever to come, and this year they're going to do floating windows, and I'm going to now I want this, and it's going to be in beta until almost this time next year. I'm going to hate that, so I'm not falling for that too. Yeah, sure. And then so the one thing with the iPadOS, the counter argument's going to be, how much more do you want it to be like your laptop computer? When they come out and they're going to show you the new Air around the same time, the MacBook Air, that's going to be an iPad with a keyboard, and it's going to, so you know what I mean? So that's Apple's problem. How much do we make the iPad like a computer? And then why does anybody want either one?
I want Apple to take advantage of the power that the iPad has and take advantage of the fact that it's 100% touch and it's super portable and the battery lasts. Like, take advantage of the situation that you have, just like they did with the iPhone. Like, the fundamental interaction relationship I have with my phone is completely different than my computer. I can do a whole lot of stuff on my phone.
Would you want a MacBook Air in its current iteration with a touchscreen? I mean,
no. No, I want the iPad to be an iPad. It doesn't have to have a keyboard. If you want a keyboard, that's your prerogative. If you don't worry about it. And it should be touch. It should be a touch screen. It should be all of the things that it is. But let me do a little bit of multitasking. Obviously, the computer can take it. There's an M1 in my laptop now. I had to send my laptop off for repair. I got it back and I went, I am never opening one of these stupid permission screens again. I went to my applications folder and I opened everything. Kelly. Opened all of them, and 77 apps later, the fan on my M1 MacBook Pro never even spun up. Not a MacBook, not an M1 Pro, not an M1 Ultra, regular old mere mortal first gen M1.
Kelly, Microsoft is calling you. They're saying, we've tried this. We had a laptop that you want to use as a laptop, and you also want to use as a tablet.
No. And I'm not taking Microsoft's call because that's not what I want. I had the power to open 77 applications at the exact same time on my computer. You should have seen the command tab. It was like most of the screen. It was.
What are you looking to do on your iPad that you can't do on a computer?
I would like to copy paste easily between applications. I would like to be able to get to the settings from the application itself easily. The ones that Apple has, tucked away in the system settings app. I want to be able to do things like that. I want to be able to
Kelly, you don't
upload.
have
I want to be able to complete an entire blog post.
Okay,
when
Kelly,
I was writing at Mac Observer, I couldn't do that on my iPad.
I'm Apple, and I hear you. You don't have a keyboard, Kelly. How are you going to do this?
That's why Apple makes lots of money, because they figure out how to do this.
That's what
I don't need a keyboard. That's the thing.
That's what they're saying. Kelly, you want to copy and paste easily between those two windows? You decide not to get the keyboard. How are you going to do it?
I can do it with my finger now, but being able to do higher end file management, apply more automation to some of the things that I'm doing that Shortcuts does not have the capacity to do, or doesn't do reliably. Give me shortcuts that work and work reliably.
Like Microsoft, Apple has to figure out how to do it without a keyboard. And that's
but they don't have to. That's the thing. No, they don't. Let me do the work. If I'm the person that wants to do it, give me the Lego blocks. And I'll go build whatever the crap I want. It's going to be different from Jeff,
they did with this iteration,
different from you, different from David.
Right.
But it'll be the thing that I need. All you have to do is give me the blocks. I'll stack them however I need to stack them.
Well, like in the current iPadOS, they tried with those 3 things on the top, the split screen and things. Has anybody figured it out? I haven't.
No, it's because they did it wrong.
Yeah.
So they need to keep trying until they get it right.
So,
But
that's what I'm saying. Multitasking is going to be something that they come
multitasking
up
needs an
with.
iteration. Yeah.
Right.
And
They can't get it right even trying. So they are
but they
trying.
could. Like, there are ways that a lot of this stuff could be better. And one of the primary ways to do that is to make the multitasking something that is
Mind
easy
control.
and useful. And first of all, and second of all, give me reliable working shortcuts.
It's going to be
And anybody who says, what's wrong with shortcuts? I have 2 words for you, and they are Brittany Smith, because Brittany will tell you they are super broken in a bunch of ways. And
it's horrible how badly automation is broken.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you Lego earlier, right? So, give me the Lego blocks I need, and I will go stack them however I want. Now, let's say that every time I stack the blocks, 1 out of every 25 times, 2 of the bricks randomly explode and knock the whole thing over.
I think Apple's really gearing up for AR. And I think Apple is basically saying, Kelly, don't worry about this iPad and controlling it. You're figuring out how to do all this stuff, because in 3 years, it's not going to matter anymore, because you can have these things on your face and you're going to be all interacting with it that way.
Yeah, that's not happening, though. See, is the thing is I paid an awful lot of money for laser eye surgery so that I never have to wear crap on my face anymore.
So I wear crap on my face.
I don't like 3D movies for the same reason. I paid a whole lot of money not to wear glasses, not wearing glasses in the movies. So
all right,
there's
one last thought.
I think I want the iPad software to reflect the capability of the iPad hardware in the way that we have grown to know and love and occasionally gripe at the iPad, because nobody would gripe about it if we didn't care. Was it Jean-Louis Gasset, like, at last a computer I can criticize? Wasn't that like his stance on the Mac in the first place? Like, that's how I feel about the iPad. I want it to be better. It has so much potential,
we all do.
And it's like Apple just can't seem to figure it out. And when they try, they make a swing and it doesn't work the way it should. And rather than saying, like, we need to iterate on this, they just sort of go, well, nobody's using it. Well, nobody's using it because it sucks.
All right, and before we wrap up, I wanted to talk a little bit about the for those who have developer accounts. I have one. I think most of us here do, and not everybody does. But the Apple did a great job updating the app for the iPhone and the iPad. Notably, is they've got the digital lounges, which I thought was really cool, and I just signed up for it. I signed up for it. I don't know if you guys did or not, but just got my acknowledgement today and signed up. It's in Slack. So you'll be able to actually have all of your digital lounges built into Slack. Looks like Serenity Caldwell, who we all know is leading it all up this year, as she's done in the past few years for WWDC. And there's going to be some lively discussions within the Slack channels that you get to subscribe to. So that's something new that they've done for this year. It's going to be pretty awesome. You're going to be able to watch videos together using SharePlay, so they've enhanced the app doing that as well. So it looks like Apple is enhancing things even more. And I mean, it's a more or less virtual conference. They did invite a fair amount of developers to come to Apple Park. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes on. There's been a lot of discussion about that, but it's great to be able to do that, and they've really enhanced the experience, because they obviously probably got lots of feedback that we need to have this to be a lot more user friendly than it has in the past, because the app, let's face it, the developer app was not the greatest in years past, and I think this is a good for folks, and like you just said, Kelly, yes, Slack channels are moderated, and so you can't just be talking smack about stuff. So
or giving away corporate secrets,
or
secrets,
or
saying
stuff, the kinds of things that Apple doesn't want the engineers to say, which was always sort of the value of the ticket, was being able to get one of those one-on-one things and be able to hear someone say to you, like, "We know about this bug; it's not getting fixed." Okay,
so
let me help you.
So,
can you help me route around it? Like, everyone I know who ever got one of those one-to-one meetings, like, got actual, honest, legitimate information, and it wasn't always something that painted Apple in the best light necessarily, but at least you got that information and then you could do something like, okay, like if it's not getting fixed, how do I get around it? What are my countermeasures? And having that sort of conversation with somebody that's productive, but also one-to-one, makes it a lot easier for a developer who's up against that bug or that limitation or whatever to be able to do what they need to do in order to get things done in a way that they are going to be able to do them. And that was Absolutely. The thing that was always really nice about those in-person sessions was, it's a known issue and we can't get around it, or it's not getting, we know it's a thing and we know it's a problem, but we don't have resources for it, or nobody else cares about it, or, whatever it is. And, Apple may not want people telling anybody that anymore. And yet that was always the piece that was the most useful,
Yep. So for those who are not developers, you can watch the keynote, which will be pre-recorded. That's going to be on Monday, June the 6th. That's at 10 a.m. Pacific, then 1 p.m. Eastern time. So you are able to watch it pretty much everywhere. They've made it even more reachable. I think already Apple has set their YouTube channel as a slot ready for it to play back and watch live. So check it out. I think it's going to be a great event. This will actually be the first time in quite a while for myself. I'm not going to be able to actually watch it live because I have a business trip coming up next week as we record. So, but I will definitely go back and watch it, and we'll definitely have good coverage for it after the fact next week, and the recap of what happened. So, but with that, let's go ahead and wrap things up for this week. And that is a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. Support the show. Buy me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You also can become a Patreon of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers are available. You can support the show. We'd really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to and be notified when we are live streaming, which is usually on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific at youtube.com/DaveG65. You can watch past shows as well as listen to them right there on the channel. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics that we discussed are flipped into that magazine. You'll see those that we talked about today. The link is in the show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, and many others. But better yet, go to our website, which is at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. Jeff Gamet, as always, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Where can people find you?
Well, thanks, as always, for having me. It's always loads of fun. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, JGamet on both, youtube.com/JGamet for my occasional videos, Tuesdays with you and quite often Kelly on Mac Voices Live, the big show on Thursdays, the Mac show on Fridays. Who's that other guy that joins us sometimes on Mac Voices Live?
Nobody.
Wilbur?
Nobody.
Wilbur.
Waldo.
Waldo. Yeah. He looks strikingly like you, Warren. Anyhow, and Brian Chaffin and I just finished recording our next episode of The Context Machine.
Yeah, check that out. Can't wait for the next episode. You're just knocked it out of the park with that show, man.
Oh, thanks.
Kelly Guimont, as always, great to have you back. And where can people find you? Thanks for being here.
Gosh, you can find me on Loud, Fast, and Keep Going, the Barry podcast. I was outvoted on calling it the NoHo Hank cast, occasionally featuring Barry. But you can find that over at aftershowpodcast.com. We have links there. That is also where you can find the show I do with Mike Rose called The After Show. And you can find me hosting I Want My MCU TV, where we talk about the latest streaming show on Disney Plus. So we're sort of currently not on the air. I am also gearing up for Greetings from the Uncanny Valley, which is the show I do with Don Melton, where we talk about Wild West sex robots. It's also called Westworld, because that's coming soon. And so if you ever want to hear Don and I just make each other crack up a lot, that's a very good place to find it. And the rest of the time, you can find me on Twitter as Verso. Occasionally, I'm here on Tuesdays when I don't accidentally make other plans. You can find me on Mac Voices Live with Chuck Joyner. And
or forget about your other plans and join us for a minute.
That's what she's talking about.
I mean, that maybe you may very well think that. I couldn't possibly comment. You can also find me spinning up my coverage of other stuff over at the site that I have started in the hopes of going independent, and that is over at theslice.tech.
All right. And Warren Sklar, thank you for being on the show. And when you're not at the beach house, where can people find you?
I still have computers. W. Sklar. I might even have a Google thing now that you told me I might have one that I could do things with it. Tuesdays and Thursdays here, Mac to the Future Facebook group. I'm sure we'll be all nice and chatty next Tuesday. And if you try to reach me around 2:00 next Tuesday, I'm not ignoring you. I'm reinstalling and panicking. So I'll get back to you. Just be patient and just understand that my devices are in crisis, and I'll figure it out. And I'll get to
Warren rushing in where angels fear to tread.
Yes,
he's like that guy at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark in front of the plane.
No. I'm going to be like this tomorrow.
Well, thanks again. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. We enjoyed doing it, and we will programming note. It'll be like a day delay when I get back. We'll be recording the show on Friday, so it might be a little late than released, but you'll definitely hear some great coverage about the post WWDC. So, thanks again for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk again soon.